to not only the P&Z, but also the city council. Which is why we thought about this meeting here, so that you can have an opportunity. It's kind of hard sometimes making the decisions when somebody comes to give you a 5-minute presentation and say, okay, vote. And so the meeting that he's scheduled for on the 8th is just an introduction to say it's back, this is what we're planning, and then we have to go back and do some work. So I don't want you to think we're asking for any approval on the 8th. It's just we want to introduce it again, and like you said, do the PR first. It's his to do, not mine. But I thought the timing is impeccable because you just passed the land use plan that was authored by Chris Stewart here, and we can use his expertise as we're going to go and write ordinances going forward that land use plan is going to generate. We can start it here and use this as a model and a springboard going forward. But definitely, this is a huge plan because I wrote down 746 units. It's a lot of units for us to go and cut our teeth on. But 50 is even enough to get started. And so we're hoping to use this going forward, but we want to be smart and get ahead of the game rather than be under the wire, so to speak. But the foundation is there. The hard work has already been done. Basically, the layout is the same. I was on the phone earlier today with Mr. Heimer, and he said according to his calculations, and I will need some plans later because we can't find our original plans, but he said from his calculations that based on the original idea, the water and sewer is already there. There's a 16-inch line coming down 181, so water's not an issue. I think has a lift station now that's functioning. The pumps have been going for some time, so they may have to replace some pumps, but everything structure-wise is there.
And will that lift station take up all that extra?
Yes.
Yes.
The lift station was completed last year, completely redone. Passed the TCQ and the city engineer and the engineer that was on the project, and it was built to do and support the original, I think it was almost 900 homes.
Yeah, it's 900.
And the pumps are less than, probably just a year old. There's 2 pumps in there. They redid the water well and all that, so the city actually has the operation of it, and it is functioning well. Matter of fact, I see a city vehicle go out there every day to check on it.
They'd be good at reading.
See that builder that's already bought some lots in there.
Okay.
The builder that's already bought lots in there.
One is Greenboro.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
He is, that's, and then there is, what is the other one?
Wells has
Wells.
been building in tradition, yeah.
Right. So, we'll soon have a new name, but, I'm superstitious, so I don't tell you the name before I have money in the bank. Yeah. From first lots. About there. No, we had 2 actually, and 1 walked away. So, it happens, and you never know.
So there are many, many meetings that I propose to have with staff and consultants to fine tune this agreement, to look at this. We wanted to, and I want to thank you for coming, to start the work here, to start the effort, to look at this again, to sit and ask those questions so that we can be able to do that. The attorney and I met on this earlier today, and we're meeting again, so that we can definitely have a really good agreement. It was ironic that the conference I just went to, Eagle, I just said stop and think Eagle for Shell Consortium. Okay, last week, actually, Chris was on one of the keynote speakers, one of our panel speakers. Richard was there as well. He spoke as well of how to do community before gas and oil communities are experiencing this influx of this growth. They don't like to use the word boom because boom comes with stuff. And so they're using more so this wonderful sustainable community of oil and gas communities, which literally we're in the middle of it. The waves are coming, we've seen the growth, and we're hoping that we can do additional growth. The people are looking at us. But I think we have a very good consultant, and I want to thank the planning and zoning. They work really hard on that land use plan. We really want to put it into action, and this will definitely help us to do it as the ordinance goes forward.
And I think one, I'm really having the outside perspective, so I can, I can judge, and you can like it or you don't. But, I've been driving through this Eagle for Sale for a year and a half, and I've looked at all, I've looked at county seats only, and, not too far in the west. So, we have to kind of make our mind. So what are we going to exactly look at? which, that's why we came to Gonzales and to Florida. So we said, okay, Carrizo Springs is very active, but I thought Carrizo Springs is just really 100% oil and gas. If that goes away, everything goes away. You go, Kennedy, which is your neighbor, is going crazy. I mean, this for me is how I always dreamed of the gold rush or, Wild West. I mean, I think it's Wild West and gold rush in one. And why I think that, is I'm asking myself, what's going to happen in 10, 15 years with all these fast food chains and all these man camps and all these hotels and motels and all these two-story apartments and all these, RV parks left and right and, scattered and no planning and nothing. How is this town going to look like in 10 years? And I think, what I understand why they do it, because their property income, property tax income sixfolded or eightfolded since they started Eagle Ford Shale. I mean, the Carson City and Kennedy swims in money. I understand this, the short-term success, but I think I look at the Eagle Ford Shale as a chance for all these 21 counties in the Eagle Ford Shale affected by the Eagle Ford Shale, a once in a lifetime chance to step up to the next phase in their lives. I think it's your chance to make it into the future, to grow past what you have been in the past. Because the money that's been created now in this Eagle Ford Shale, with people coming in and paying your sales tax and paying your property tax and everything, this is a once in a lifetime happening in South Texas. And I think you can do it the way you do it, or you can do it the way you do it in Kennedy. And we'll see. I think that's what I liked about Gonzales too. I mean, they banned man camps out of town. They doubled RV park fees in the city's own RV park because they wanted to get rid of the RVs. So they just raised the fees from $600 a pad to $1,200. And
You're talking about Gonzales?
Gonzales, yeah.
Yeah.
Within 30 days, the RV park was empty.
They have 3 left.
So I mean, and I think that's what I like. That's what I like about Gonzales. And I think what you have to realize, and I can only tell that from an outside perspective, the River Bend is a gem, in your town. And it's not because I want to make this a success for me, but I think also for you. You have the chance now on a very in a very organized way, something that's already in space, to make that add 50% to your present population in a very organized way, which all the other cities don't do, or most of the cities don't do. They grow wild. So I think this is your chance, to do it right. And you have really in front of your house door, you have this product, this master plan community, which just needs to be attended and groomed to make it successful. And I think it's going to add appeal to your city, and in the future it's going to be the premier place to live in Gonzales. You have good schools, and I keep telling people, when I look at Odessa and Midland, what is the difference between Odessa and Midland? Until today, in Midland, when the first oil boom started, in Midland, some smart guys said, okay, we want to make this a long-term play. How are you going to make sure that it's a long-term play? We want to attract people who can spend money, and we want to attract people who can run good schools. So Midland, had from the very beginning spent a lot of money for good schools, and spent a lot of money to attract people that had money. And you can still see today, the difference between Midland and Odessa. Always 25 miles apart, it's still different. And I think that's exactly, if people ask me, so what's your vision for Floresville? I would say you have to be the Midland of whatever, Southeast San Antonio. And you have a chance to be that, if you do it smartly and, go about, growing the city with the money that fluxes in now from the Eagle Ford Shale for the next 5, 10, 20 years. You grow the city smartly. And that's your chance. And I think the gem is here, that is your gem. And help make this, not fail a second time. So I think the developer agreement that you have in front of you and the plan, it's just a tool. It's not buy this nice plan that looks great. It's not that anybody's gonna build a house because of this house plan. There's a lot of work and a lot of PR and a lot of money that we have to put into this deal to work. And don't expect miracles this year. Don't expect miracles. It's gonna be a slow start, you know. We'll have to convince everybody to buy a house, you know, and come in. And really convince people that this is for real. So, I think, you know, it's up to you to catch a chance.
One of the important things for me, and is that, you know, we're trying to finish our audit, and we're trying to make sure that we go forward and smart, is that in developing this development agreement, part of the development agreement is that the developer will incur costs for our consultants and our contributors that we put together.
They agree to us.
The three to five costs, they will.
It's no open-ended. There's no open-ended.
Magic word.
No, I found it. I can give you the numbers from Gonzalez, and they were very reasonable. And I think you guys are reasonable too.
So we want to be able to say that the engineering costs, legal costs, the consultant to do this is not going to be necessarily bear by us. The developer understands and agrees upfront, he knows that he'll have to do that for that cost. In doing that, it allows us to be able to work the plan, but not necessarily, if it goes away, and I hope it doesn't, but if it goes away, we did not have that left that this was going to spend. I know before, we have nothing in place to do that, so that's why we have to spend so much time on it upfront. We don't have anything, but we can use this going forward. We've had a lake project come before you and a park project come before you. You can sit this long and say, as we develop their agreement, they need to come to tell you the same thing, not just do that. So that's what we're hoping to do. Because it can be, you know, it may not scare him for numbers, but it's not necessarily because we have something that we budgeted for. And so that is part of the agreement as well, that we're still just roughly negotiating and reading through, and who's ready to, you know, dot all the i's and cross all the t's for us when we get there, right? We're gonna do that. But Chris is gonna be doing a lot of the lion's share lifting, so, because, you know, my concerns I've expressed before, I don't want it to be too dense, I don't want too many people too dense in reference to that. We spoke of the traffic, so they're thinking about getting people out, because you can imagine, everybody's heading 181, they wanna get to work, they're going to San Antonio, and so we need to think about that, I don't want it too dense. And then, of course, the green spaces and other things like that, we still have those to work out. P&Z will probably see it again, but we wanted to start the dialogue and the conversation early on.
Just pick up, you know, the remark about 181. Don't expect us to come back in 2 years and say you have to do a 4-lane road. Avalon Park, which has, you know, 12,000 people today, only after 15 years, changed now from a 2-lane road to a 4-lane road, after 15 years. And so every morning, Avalon Park empties, you know, with people going to work. It takes 20 minutes to empty the whole town on 2 lanes now, if, you know, there are 2 exits. And one thing I wanted to mention, I forgot before, you know, with the TERS, I've heard some, you know, indirectly, you know, people complaining about why this TERS, you know, all the property tax goes to repay, you know, the bondholder and then to us eventually. For the next 17 years, yeah, true. But again, you know, this is history. I can't really judge why people did what they did in 2003. But the other thing, you know, don't forget what is the effect of having, you know, hundreds of more people living in town. They're spending their money in town. They're creating, so it's a ripple effect. You know, you have to not think of the property tax, you know, that you're missing for the next 17 years. You have to think of the ripple effect. So sales tax, you know, people come to town, spend nights in the hotel, you get the hotel tax. I mean, you get, you know, more and more is going to, you know, fill the city's coffers just because you have more people in town who spend more money in town. And you get that money, you know, directly without the property tax, and you won't, you know, get for the next 17 years. So I think, you know, just, you know, don't you know, just judge on the basis of the property tax. That's kind of tied up in the TERS. It is what it is. I mean, I didn't do it. So. But you know, I think there's enough other positive effects that, you know, the city will take advantage financially too.
Financially, and we didn't have to actually invest in the infrastructure. It's there, and that's the purpose of.
You have to fix some of the roads at the entry, for example. It's public roads, right? I know. Just kidding.
So the infrastructure is there, which is usually the city's portion, so that's already done, it's there, it's functioning. So like you saying, a lot of these elements are already in place. We don't have to fight about it, we don't have to deal with it, all of that is done. And so it's really nice that somebody's looking at us, we're gonna be moving to develop. And once people start seeing those rooftops being developed, as we go for our USDA grant, I can say, look at all these homes, I'm having a potential 746, not gonna be someday, they're proposed on the table. And then it'll help us as we go forward and say, as we're looking at our community growing. And of course, he has a commercial, which is gonna help us have a sustainable community. He also mentioned the trail, their golf course, is one of our shopping issues as well. So this is gonna be a lovely, component as the golf course is already. Every time I mention it to somebody, they talk about how lovely the golf course is. It is a lovely golf course. I don't play, I've looked at it. But the dining is also very nice as well. So the activity is there and we're ready to take off.
Still looking project.
One question, what communication have you had, because this is a perennial problem in South Texas and in our area in particular, what communication have you had with TxDOT? Where's TxDOT plugged in on this thing?
No.
No.
Not so far, because it's, right now for me, it is, a year, away. And, TxDOT usually barks if you have two driveways too close. That's when they bark, But I think this road is a road.
Well, no, you answered my question. TxDOT's been barking a lot, so we're gonna have to talk about that.
Okay.
There's two more right next to it.
We've just been through that these 2 nights ago, so we know that.
This is on the hill.
Yeah, we can, we'll cross that bridge when they're there, so.
And what experience do you have with TxDOT in Gonzales? I know Gonzales fairly well, I'm sure.
There is where we are on the east side of town, there is a spur that was built, I think, because TxDOT has an office there. And for no other reason, I don't know why, but it's a spur, they built it. And our entry is, 100 feet to the east. And I expected TxDOT to come in and say, hey, guys, if you're doing 500 units times 2.5, you still on the people, it's 5,000 car movements a day. You have to line it up with the spur and build a light. That's what I expected. We didn't have to. So we built it straight, no light. And certainly in 5 years, it will come and say, hey, you have to put a light, there's no problem. We'll have to pay for it anyway. So TxDOT is going to pay for it. So they were easy to deal with. And we applied for, a permit and got it within, 2 weeks. I know it takes long enough because I think it has to go to IOP Central in Austin. Everything's good in Austin now.
Put your order in right now for that light.
I know.
Still waiting for us.
I know.
97.
It takes them a year to design.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
That's what they do. Throw a pole and bring some water.
We'll put it there.
Any more questions?
What kind of amenities besides the golf course and the dining, the restaurant, and they have tennis courts? Is there gonna be any kind of amenities like swimming pools or?
Yeah, we were talking about that with the golf course owners that we might, eventually down the road and driven by market, demand, do some kind of a joint project at the right location. To maybe do a pool that, it's not, just the cabana costs $250,000, you do the right one. And then, put in a pool, this thing is gonna cost $500,000 fast, just a small pool.
Is there a city that one?
We do,
Yeah.
Where's it at?
And the city park.
down at
This one here?
97.
Like community park.
It's not the city
The
limit.
big event center.
Is your intention at the end of this time, to this,
Oh, by the river park.
homeowner
Oh, okay.
association?
Yeah, there is one already.
Are there gonna be individual ones, or is it gonna be one for, that's interesting.
So, we have to change the covenants and the building code because, the first section is this Floridian style, alley loaded, garage in the back deal, and then we want really to kind of, put emphasis on the more hill country style. So the architectural guidelines right now say that the one story has to have 75% masonry, which is the front and the sides, not the back. And 2-story, basically 50%, which usually is, front and the side stone, and Yeah, and then maybe the second floor, the front stone too. And then the rest, is, the upper, upper floor is plank, the back is plank.
It needs to be rock and stucco.
Right. And so, stucco is, basically whatever can be masonry, depending on the definition. But right now, we have the more strict code in force, which is applicable now to legions, the finished lot size. And then we'll see, I think we'll try to kind of, create this consistent picture that the house, the streetscape, and the curb appeal starts looking similar, not so kind of diverse as it is right now. And then, we can always change that. So the HOA, there's always the declarant, which is the owner, usually controls a neighborhood until 75–85% of the lots are sold. And then by definition and by state law, the homeowners have a right to be represented on the board of directors. But until then, basically the declarant with the votes that he has, nominates the board of directors, and the board of directors, of course, is developer friendly, so we nominate people who vote with us, and then we basically, appoint the architectural review or control committee, which basically just makes sure that all, once you build the house and you want to do a shed, or you want to do the swimming pool, or you want to put on solar, that we have, one body that consistently applies the rules, so it looks at least, pretty similar.
How much do you complete one parcel before you begin building in another? Are you gonna begin building in another?
No. No,
I
prudent businessman wouldn't do that. No, I think, right now we're trying to really bring a second builder into the deal, assuming the first one comes and stays, bring a second builder so we can increase the frequency of home construction. So if you have two builders, they build, 4 homes at the same time per month. And so try to speed that up. Once we see, and we have to kind of look at the market, so what is the market demand, what is the price point, what kind of builder will, be able to build that price point. And then I think what we're looking at right now already is, try to do a section, and that might start earlier to do rentals, duplex and fourplexes. But I think it's a market for investors and it's a market for tenants. And then we'll have to kind of figure out a little bit, which one will be the next phase, whether we should just, attach, basically the next phase to traditions and just do that one, or whether we should do the high-end estate lot, at the very west part links, and just do the big lots around it, 70, 80, 90 foot wide, $500,000 deal, because that's high demand. Or whether we do, kind of more affordable, close to 200,000, price point. So the market will tell.
Richard, you brought some gas funds and for our part of the project. I don't know all of them, their roles in this project. Chris, you may not. Can you introduce us to who's here so that we can see who all the players are?
Yeah, me. And then, Rick's father and daughter, so Lee Ricks, they are the present owners of both the golf course and the finished lots and the undeveloped lots. And so basically, we have an agreement where we buy from them and then, develop it, put in the next infrastructure, sell it to builders, and roll over to the next phase. So that's on our side, I think. Well, Mike is also part of this one.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. PhD from Purdue. No. I'm with the Rick's estate. I'm one of the partners. My capacity is mainly the golf courses.
We were trying to find the city's original plans.
You're never gonna find them?
couldn't find it.
You can look all you want. The previous administration looked real hard, you're not gonna find them. And that's a good point, though. I mean, you know, everybody had a bad reputation, you know, on this end of the project. And I see a whole lot of new people in the city here, and a lot of new faces, so it's a good chance for everybody to get a good, fresh, clean start. Because you can
Yeah,
tell her how far we look.
it's painful.
Yeah, so we're gonna need some asphalt, so you got it.
Oh, on the, no, we don't have anything. Now, we could check with Mr. Hawkins, I guess, is the best thing.
The
As
asphalt
built.
of the infrastructure for the water and sewer. The actual.
Now, there's a few of those
We'd have to vote for them.
on the two existing plats that have infrastructure on there. Lee, I don't know, we have some engineering on the one
It would just be helpful as we're trying to, we just went for the city's modeling project for the sewer lines. We're busy out there trying to find them and locate them. And so as this subdivision is taking off, and we want to make sure that everything's going forward, I don't have any plans. And so we're just looking to see if you all had some to give us so that we can actually start our repertoire. City's moved their office, and I have a new public works person, and so change heads, change locations, things got lost. And they can't find the plans. And so we really want to make sure that, as we talk about connecting and where they are, and I'm just trying to avoid, so when the boys are out there digging up stuff, going, where's the lines at? Because I don't have the plans, and so that will help us out.
Okay,
Okay, so if you have anything, we can, if you give me originals, I'll get copies.
okay. I'll do an inventory of what I do have and get it to you.
Thank you, I really appreciate that. We should try to get prepared for the coming up, for the connections, and where we're gonna put the V boxes and those kind of things. Just the fundamental plans, and we should have, once I get them, believe me, we'll make sure everybody can copy.
check the bunker.
How much is the reward?
We sit on the call, so we're trying.
What do you really want to ask?
It's been over 10 years, it's been over 10 years, so, you know, and a lot of different changes in administration, and a lot of different changes in staff as well, so one of the things.
Might be at somebody's house.
Hawkins, Paul might be able to locate a lot of that from senior. Mr. Hawkins Senior probably has a lot of that. Where it's willing to be close to that, maybe not exactly there, but it's right there. There's gas lines and everything out there already, and there are some markers that show that.
This gentleman right here is this
Yes.
from Phelps.
Oh, Phelps.
Yes, Phelps guy.
Yeah, we need to.
And then the gentleman over there quiet, he's a money man, so if you have a money question, he's a money man. Did you bring any checks in?
He's looking at it.
Are they deep pockets or shallow pockets?
He just counts the money. He doesn't, Paul has a checkbook, he just counts the money. He does, I'm laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. The money just flows out.
No more questions? All right. You want me to say a few words?
Yes.
You know, I'll just say from my perspective, we wrapped up the future land use planning exercise recently. One of the things we talked about over and over was how we really want to create long-term value. And I think that's, you know, Richard has echoed that. I know my discussions with Ms. Turner, we talked about the need for that. That's clear. We need to create long-term value. I think all the components are really here. Some of them, as you indicated, are givens. They're kind of set. It's kind of a hand we've been dealt in one sense. But there's still cards that we can play and work back and forth to come up with the best configuration. I think one of the first things we need to kind of establish is that mechanism needs to be in place, that PDD or PUD mechanism within our zoning ordinance. So for a little sample of kind of how I think it should be structured. That's obviously something that we'll discuss, and I'll certainly defer to council on how that should be done. But that mechanism really needs to be in place. One of the key points about a planned development district is that it's typically, it requires something more than is normally required. So you, in exchange for some flexibility in terms of, lot widths, setbacks, the kinds of spatial challenges that Richard's going to, and his design team are going to be up against, dealing with new floodplain, dealing with the existing boundaries, the existing roads. That flexibility needs to be there for the project to be successful. I recognize that, I know we recognize that, but we'll need to see kind of how the development of the community can go above and beyond what we would traditionally have under our zone. I think that comes down to really a proper distribution, proper transition, and proper connectivity between these areas that we're talking about. So those are the kind of planning terms that we use to describe it. It is about intensity, it is about how we transition that and provide appropriate buffers. It's how we distribute it. A lot of that's going to be market driven, but a lot of that is just taking some time up front to work through that. I know we've had some, you've expressed some concerns to me about the intensity of the development. I would have some concerns too, at a first quick read, but those are things that we're just going to have to talk through. At any rate, that's kind of how I see it going forward, at least kind of our ASAP first step really is we need to start hammering and getting a planned development district put into our zoning ordinance so that we have that tool to work with. What kind of stuff?
This is recommendation you make here, right?
Yes.
It's pretty good.
So I have one comment to make, and that's, if you look at our present, and I'm looking at 153, 415, it talks about establishment of districts and boundaries. We've got R1, which is single family, we've got R2 multifamily, we've got B business, we've got C commercial, M industrial. If you look at our existing restrictions, and I hope you will soon, quite frankly, I don't think we have severe restrictions. We've got a few places where it says no rear yard is required. We've got a few places where rear yard is required. We've got some lot restrictions. But on balance, I don't think you're going to find the Floresvillian version very restricted. We can spend a lot of time doing a whole new section in the zoning code. But I'd encourage you to look at this and tell us what part about this you've got problems with, and parallel it. Let's figure out how much you really want to write new and how much you really want to change. And the reason I say that is I'm not interested in making drastic changes. I'm not speaking for the council tonight, but for myself as a professional. I'm not interested in making drastic changes to accommodate you when we've got stuff here that doesn't require a lot of change. And therefore, we can use something that's already adaptable, and that other people have the confidence that we're not giving you that total special deal, and it can be adapted and used for other people. That's just a general comment. I'm not opposed to writing something special for you, but when I see something that's flexible and as loosey-goosey as what we already have, I think you ought to look at it. I use the word loosey-goosey.
It is, and which is why one of the reasons it's too loose for me.
Well, but the point is, he's not the guy that ought to be the one that we may suffer for it. What I'm trying to get at is, give us some constructive look at what we've got and what you need for your commercial activities, but I'm not sure we need to rewrite. That's my concern. I don't want to come in here and try to justify to the public that we're rewriting the whole code just to accommodate you, and what we need are some small changes.
Well, I don't think we're gonna write the whole code in reference to this. What I think we're gonna do is say we're gonna set some standards for this subdivision. Actually, he needs these for his development of how he wants to do. Because as he's selling off the lots, it's actually the city that's gonna restrict him more so than him restricting his future builders. So what we wanna do is write a set of rules for him that he's asking for. I'm glad you're asking for this discipline. I think use it as a model because we're gonna change these loosey-goosey. We cannot continue with that. And so as we come up and say, for this area here, these rules are what apply, but the future people are gonna know that pretty soon that it's gonna be comprehensive as we do that, which is when I talked to Chris is what I needed to say, that as we look at this agreement and come to this development agreement, it is something that we can live with long-term and throughout the city. Because what we have is pyramid zoning, can't have going forward. But we wanted to base what's going on in the land use plan that you all have designed and worked so hard for, that this is the model going forward. Chris?
Yeah, I think my point is that introducing the PDD district is simply that mechanism, it simply provides that ability to respond to something and be flexible. And so that's not, I don't see that in itself as a wholesale change to the zoning ordinance. It's just providing some other piece in there other than the cumulative zoning that we have.
I think we're gonna probably end up, council's probably gonna end up seeing, you know, some of the subdivisions that we've already approved may be coming back and asking for some, you know, something a little bit, something similar to what we're looking at right now. You know, and asking for the same type of
And looking
treatment.
forward, you know, there's gonna be a lot of hard working geology going forward. I mean, once he introduces on May 8th, just to say it's back, this is what we're planning on, this is what we're looking, then there's plenty of ordinances that we'll have to do, just establish the fact that we call it planning development or what PDD or whatever the acronym we wanna use, that has to be passed, and then the agreement has to be passed, there's a lot of other things that we have to do. But we need to be able to set the standards and then carry the standards too, because the standard that we have now, you're gonna end up with this hodgepodge everywhere. So what we need to be able to do is set these standards going forward. But it also will help Richard out in his development, because as his builders come forward, he says, this is concise. So he needs to know up front, because he's got a long term to do 746 units. That's a long term mission as we try to fix these ordinances. So he doesn't want to say, oh yeah, he can, this ordinance now, he can loosey-goosey, he can do this, that, and then I come back and go, hey, no, you can't do that anymore. So he goes, I did my plans, I set up for 700, you can't change the rules in the middle of the game.
Really?
You're not supposed to. So that's what we want to be able to do, is to set the game. 'Cause
That's
it's a
what I've
new
been
game.
doing wrong.
Yeah, it's a new game, so we want to definitely set the rules and the parameters of what we want to go forward. And that's the first thing I said to Chris coming in, is that this agreement has to honor and pay respect to that land use plan that we have in place. This ordinance does not honor that. So now we have to make sure the ordinances are going to line up. Everything's going to have to eventually line up with that land use plan going forward. I'm speaking to the ordinance have to do with development, have to line in with that plan, because right now they are not necessarily in sync. And so we're hoping to set this example. Right. And as we do this going forward, as we do, he mentioned Fredericksburg and the other municipalities, we can start looking like those communities that have a plan. I'm even talking to a grant person to talk about us having a grant to get a comprehensive plan, which is kind of costly, but it helps us along that line as we're planning to go back to our master plan that we did with M&S, the land use plan that we have. So we have all these plans in place, and hopefully they can coordinate and work together. But we want to be able to set him up for success and not change the rules on him. So this agreement will help him have that foundation and help us set the foundation as well going forward. Because no more loosey-goosey.
Is there a time frame?
As fast as you can. So maybe just to answer your, yes, I'll answer your question. I'm going to look at it in the code. And again, I think, you know, from a development point of view, for such a big project, you know, there's nothing, you know, in this development agreement proposal that is unreasonable. It's, you know, based on what we consider, you know, the products, and the products meaning the houses. You know, at the end, it's building units. You know, we're talking about building a big little town with a variety of different products. And products that we have, define them as the minimum lot size and setbacks are based on, what they've done in the past, various other locations, and are based on really the market that tells us those things work, that size, we can build those products, we can sell those products. So it's nothing that, has never been done before. That's one thing. And the other thing really is, I don't want to wait until the city has, revised the whole code if they want to, and introduce stuff that for the next 2 years, I don't know what the final result will be, because the council is going to open that in 2016. I want to know now what I can build, this year, what I can build the next 10 years. That's certainly one thing, and I think it doesn't, and so what Chris mentioned, to introduce just this little change, a couple of pages in your ordinance that allows you to, vote and approve such a development agreement is basically just the only change you have to do now to, be able to sign it. And what it really is, and that's what I mentioned with this big, verbiage that I showed you earlier, don't be afraid that the public is going to beat on you because you allowed, from the existing code, you allowed variances. Because that's exactly what it is, it is, again, simply said, it's a code for this, a code that we both sides decide we're going to apply to these 460 acres until it's built out. And no precedents, nobody from outside of these 460 acres can claim any right to have the same treatment with the same setbacks and the same house types and the same street width, etc., from the fact that you guys approved this development agreement. And again, your city attorney can introduce make wording that you are fine in the future and have no fear of having now to repeat 25 of such development agreements. Well, if you can, good luck. And then Floresville is really in demand.
And then the other thing is that the agreement is with this developer. So if this developer goes away, the deal goes away. It doesn't go on property, he can't sell it to somebody else unless you all agree that we can pass it on. That was important in the agreement, that actually, put in the agreement, and I think that was something that happened in the city of Gonzales as well.
Yeah, the city kind of said, okay, what happens if you guys are just speculators, we get this great deal and then you sell it to some, Fiji fund that makes, fun things with this deal. And so the city said, okay, one condition is that I will park, with the developer. And if you're not, we have the right to say, yes, your successor is the developer too. It's acceptable to under this development. But I think, in this case where we have, the rigs still, owning, for a long time, land until we buy all the land from them, I think we should kind of find a solution that, it has to go the way that we started if we ever think of, selling it or going away.
Did they make you commit that the conditions of your agreement became recordable and they run with the land, or they leave it?
Yeah, it runs with the land. And then another condition was it came into effect because like here, we buy in phases. And so what it says basically in Gonzales, and you can look that up, it's all public, it says, whenever we buy a piece of land, the development agreement starts for the duration of the development agreement. For that parcel, and we buy it, and then we can, on the development, we can develop it. And maybe by the next phase, the development agreement applies to that phase too. And so I think I thought that was fair, because, from a city's perspective, I want to know who is my big development partner for the next 10 years. I want to know, the guys, and I want to have some faces and see that they're really standing or sticking by their words. So I think it seemed to be a fair,
Well, that's a mixed blessing is the reason I asked the question.
Yeah.
Because if there is some change in market or some change in conditions, and we've got something with a deed restriction, then we've got the problem of undeed restricting. So, and that works both ways, for you or against you, or for or against the city. But city by deed restrictions. They don't zone. And I'm not suggesting that's necessarily your solution, but that is a way of doing it. Well, I'm just saying, but that's a major Texas city that does everything by deed restriction. And so conceptually, you got 3 million people over there basically doing everything by restrictions. Like it or not. Okay?
Philip has all that time.
I'm all, too much of a control freak to do it like that.
No, but Phil, the reason I'm saying that is,
I understand.
you know, it's another way of going at it. And deed restrictions, if anybody's been a property owner, homeowner association member, you know that you can't always write those so that everybody's happy. And that's another thing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, future is a crystal ball, so, I mean, we just have to kind of manage, you know, expectable, what we can expect, you know, reasonably expect in the future. I think we can't really, you know, tell what happens if I go away or, you know, the whole city count. So, you know, from the developer's point of view, again, the developer even, you know, make sure that if you guys are all exchanged and voted out, you know, and you guys are voted in, if they're all agreeing against fracking, I can still build according to the plan. And the same is true for you. You don't want to have, you know, a guy from Fiji, you know, taking over and building, atomic plants, you know. So, you know, same goes for you. And so I think the security on both sides, you know, can be pretty much, you know, steered by, you know, doing some paragraphs.
Are you visualizing each one of the little pictures that you showed earlier as separate plans? Are they all part of the comprehensive whole, or we're going to prove the whole thing at one time?
I think what you have in the file now, this overall master plan is just a potential layout without, you know, requiring me to do exactly the lot size that I have in the plan at that location.
Well, no, the reason I'm not trying to be tricky, what I'm suggesting is there may be some flexibility in you doing, I'm going to just call it Unit 1, seeing how the market and Holden plays, with the idea of coming back on some of the other aspects as the project develops, so that there's some flexibility for both sides, rather than trying to forecast 700 homes all at one time.
Right. Yeah, it's market driven, you know, I mean, the flexibility I have through this development agreement is basically, if I decide to do Skyview now and, you know, links in 5 years, like I do, if I decide to do links now, it's Skyview in 5 years, without having to go back to you and say, hey, by the way, I changed my plan. Because otherwise, we go into the same exercise every time I change the plan. So as long, you know, and I think that's what we negotiate, is the parameters, you know,
Right.
the flexibility of the parameters. So how many units, what kind of units, within which parameter of the property, you know, basically that is the flexibility that I need. You know, I can assign any use that is allowed to any portion of the whole master plan, as long as we don't surpass the number of allowed units, as long as the traffic is, you know, going according to our initial plan, as long as I, you know, adhere to all the setbacks that we've defined, as long as I build the roads, the sizes that we define, you know, for each category of roads, as long as I do the sidewalks.
So you really are thinking the criteria are defined up front.
Right. So an example, one of the exhibits you don't have, what we did in Gonzales, and which we did too, we had a whole exhibit of about 25 pages defining all the building standards. So manholes, sidewalks, city, you know, streets, pavement section, PUEs, everything, all the details. So basically what you have in a approved site plan where you have all the applicable rules, we say, okay, for the whole subdivision, for the whole master plan, these are the rules for the roads, the sidewalks, the lots, what you have to do with staking and you know, water retention, blah, blah, blah.
So
Yes.
anybody that comes in knows what the rules are.
Right, and if you change, in the meantime, the code changes and you wanna have, all your roads have to be 100, feet of right of way and 60 pavement, we still can do 28 pavement.
Mr. Roseberg, part of the amendment that I was recommending that we consider also includes the administration of the plan development, so how those changes are made. And that becomes incorporated into the zoning ordinance, so that it's the same process that applies to everybody else. We don't have to worry so much about legal protection issue or substitute process.
So I like what he presented here for literature here tonight. But I didn't find that it was that radically different from what we have. It's organized.
So then our next step would be that we present it to the council on the 8th of May. And then staff will be contacting the consultants to sit down and to hammer and to, Chris has already given me some homework already on, I appreciate that. So homework for me to read, I read it, and then we can come back and then maybe Richard to talk about how we handle that, probably after. I think a big goal so that we can stay on track and go forward is sometime in July to bring a final copy to you all to look at for the council to meet. We may request another workshop meeting like tonight with the PMZ as we hammer this out going forward.
We'll be happy to do that.
To look at the details.
Exciting development.
To see Chris's thing in reference to that. We can look at that.
Laws and needs this. Whatever held up to the
So that when the council finally approves it, my idea would be, once the council finally approves it, it should have the blessing of PMZ. So they get to vote on it first. So it'll have the blessing of PMZ, the agreement and whatever we come up with will have the blessing of PMZ when it comes to the city council for final approval. So maybe we should have some meetings, because our goal is to have it done before the end of July.
You think they'll probably get through phase 1 at least before then, can we?
I don't know. Depends on how we go. I mean, that